Ladies and gentlemen, a new One Piece chapter has dropped, and along with that, a new adventure because Wano is over. And the best part about this is the first few chapters after an arc has ended are usually absolute bangers, because these are the chapters where we find out everything else that's been happening across the rest of the world that really build towards the grander plotline and lore of One Piece. And that's exactly what we got in this chapter, so we got a lot to talk about, from bounties to the Cross Guild to the Revolutionaries. But before we get to that, I just need you to do me one favor, which is to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. With that being said, let's get into our first topic, which are the Straw Hat Bounties. And before we even address that, I just want to quickly acknowledge that little scene we got before it. It happened really quickly. It was literally only 2 pages, but just seeing the Straw Hats interact and Nami getting pissed at Luffy, beating him up, and now that Jinbei has joined, he's getting scolded too. He even goes on to make a joke about Nami having Conqueror's Haki. These are the type of interactions I've been just craving for so long. As I've said before, I'm incredibly biased towards the Straw Hats. They are my favorite thing in the story, so anytime we get any moments like this where we get to see the Straw Hats interact and just build on the relationships, I absolutely adore. And it's also just really wholesome seeing Jinbei finally reunited with the rest of the crew and just fitting in. With that said though, let's get to these Straw Hat Bounties, which I've made so many different bounty predictions videos on. But honestly, as far as the Straw Hats go, my predictions haven't really changed too much. Even in my most recent prediction, mostly I based the Straw Hat predictions based off of their opponents that they fought. So for example, like Sanji and Zoro fought King and Queen, so I thought they should have higher bounties than them. And then you had people like Jinbei, Frankie, and Robin who fought Toby Roppo members, so they should have higher bounties than the people they defeated. With the rest of the Straw Hats like Usopp, Nami, and Brook, I thought they'd get a slight jump just because they're Straw Hat crew members, even though they didn't fight anybody. And there were really only 2 special cases, one being Chopper, who I thought had a real chance of getting an actual bounty because he literally slapped up a Yonko commander, and also had that moment where he really made it be known that he was not a Tanuki. So I thought for the first time maybe Chopper had a chance of getting a real bounty. And then the other special case was Robin, who the world government continued to really focus on during Onigashima. They probably shouldn't have been doing that the entire time, like when the Straw Hats declared war on the world government during Enies Lobby and rescued her. But given their newly found sense of urgency, there was a chance that Robin gets a massive bounty boost. So overall, those were my final predictions on the Straw Hat Bounties, and mostly I got them correct. Nami, Usopp, and Brook all got a decent jump in their bounties, although I think Usopp, that was a little undeserving. Like, he literally did not do much at all in the entirety of the raid. But it seems like what the world government ended up doing was just give the majority of the Straw Hats a 300 million bounty boost, which I think makes sense for characters like Nami and Brook, who contributed but didn't really do much in the raid. But for characters like Usopp, who didn't really contribute much, and on the opposite end of the spectrum, someone like Frankie, it doesn't really feel fair. To an extent, it almost feels kind of lazy, where they were just like, alright, these are all Straw Hats, let's just slap a 300 million bounty increase on all of them. When in reality, you have someone like Frankie who just dusted Sasaki, who has a bounty of 472 million. So for his bounty to be almost 100 million below the guy he absolutely dusted, they did Frankie dirty. And I'm not even the biggest Frankie fan. I love the Straw Hats in general, but I would say Frankie up until a while ago was probably my least favorite Straw Hat. But he put in so much work during Wano, not only beating Sasaki, but also running over Big Mom's face, taking out a number. I can't help but feel underwhelmed by Frankie's bounty increase here and the fact that he got done dirty. Especially when you have someone like Usopp who barely contributed during this raid, and his bounty is now all the way up to 500 million. Besides that though, the other person I kind of feel bad for is Chopper, because he's still considered a pet. I do understand the gag that Oda is gonna keep building at this point, but at this point it's also kind of just not as funny to me anymore. I feel like if there was ever a time where you can give him a proper bounty, it was now, when he was in Monster Point for 30 plus minutes, slapped a Yonko commander, and told everybody he's not a Tanuki. At the end of the day though, it is what it is. That's just his gag. He might get a real bounty in the future. I will say though, eventually when we meet the red hair pirates and find out their bounties, Monster the monkey better be considered as a pet as well, or else Choppers really get done dirty. Moving on though, one Straw Hat that did get a massive bounty increase is Robin. She almost gets all the way up to 1 billion. Her bounty is 930 million. So it looks like the world government is at least a little competent and a little consistent. And it's about damn time Robin gets the respect she deserves. But finally, we get to the last 3 remaining bounties of the Straw Hats besides Luffy, and that is Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei. And out of all the Straw Hat bounties, the reveal of these bounties probably got me the most passionate. Because on one hand, I am absolutely hype about Jinbei's bounty of 1.1 billion. I think this was a really bounty besides Robin's that really completely exceeded everyone's expectations, and honestly, I think that's what bounties are for. At least to me, the main purpose of bounties, especially for the Straw Hats, is really just a big recognition of how much they've come and their progress at the end of the arc after they just defeated the big bad. Bounties are one of the hypest things in the story for a reason, because while they are still pretty realistic, the main purpose of it is to really get the audience excited to see the Straw Hats' progression and growth. And Jinbei's bounty increase perfectly resembles that in my opinion, seeing him going from a warlord to joining Luffy's crew in that iconic way and getting a bounty boost after Whole Cake Island, to this moment now where he's officially a Straw Hat and has a bounty of over 1 billion, higher than Jack and Katakuri and Smoothie and so many other Yonko commanders. That's just so incredibly exciting and hype. However, for that same exact reason, I am really disappointed by Zoro and Sanji's bounties. I think both of them kinda got done dirty here because they straight up defeated King and Queen without any other help like Luffy did. And for them to do that and still end up with bounties lower than King and Queen, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, some people have pointed out that these bounties have wordplay included in them because Zoro's birthday is November 11th and Sanji's birthday is March 2nd, so they are kind of worked into the bounties. But at this point, the bounties are so incredibly high and you have so many different numbers to work with, I don't think you should sacrifice the hype moment of a bounty reveal just to include the wordplay of their birthday. And honestly, the people I feel the worst for are Sanji fans because he is honestly just the butt of the joke here. Because with his bounty being not only lower than Zoro's and Sanji, it does create this funny moment where Zoro's calling him like the fourth and Jinbei's super confused at what's going on. But once again, I feel like sacrificing the hype moment of Sanji getting a crazy hype bounty that gets the audience excited simply for this gag moment, I personally don't think it's worth it. If you think it is, that's completely fine. Now, as far as what this means for the power structure of the Straw Hats, I feel a little conflicted because I do think after what we saw in Wano, the Monster Trio is still the Monster Trio. At the end of the day, the person that fought Queen was Sanji, it was not Jinbei. At the same time, I do fully recognize that Jinbei is definitely being considered a monster as well, even if he's not like the top 3, because Oda has continued to make an effort where Jinbei is included in these scenes with the Monster Trio. So overall, as far as the power structure goes, I still think the Monster Trio is the top 3 of the crew, but Jinbei is also a monster. Moving on to the next topic though, we have some information about the Cross Guild. We finally found out about how they came to be created, and we also get their bounties as well, which is gonna spark some pretty interesting discussion. Before we get to that though, I just want to first talk about like how funny this Cross Guild is, and it's just a really fun group. Seeing Buggy literally just getting completely ragdolled by Crocodile and Mihawk was pretty funny. Of course, as we find out the creation of the Cross Guild and this whole plan about what they want to do as far as hunting Marines, it was all Crocodile's idea. This is something I, along with a bunch of other people, already expected, and it's kind of what makes the Cross Guild great, which is that all of their members kind of balance each other out. You have Crocodile, who's the brains behind this operation, really knows how to create a great plan and run an organization. Then you have Mihawk, who's kind of like the figurehead muscle of the group, who actually has Yonko level strength. And then you have Buggy, who's kind of like the fake leader that has the manpower and he could just be used as a pawn. Also for comedic relief as well. It's really a perfect pairing of a trio, and we get to see them in action in this chapter, not only how they operate and lead, but also just their chemistry together. One really underrated tidbit of information is that Mihawk was previously called the Marine Hunter. First off, just that title alone is a really cool parallel to Zoro being the Pirate Hunter. But on top of that, with just that little bit of information, it gets me really intrigued on Mihawk's backstory and what kind of adventure he went through. And to hype him up even more, at the end of this section, we get the bounties of the 3 executives of the Cross Guild. We'll start with the lowest bounty, which is Crocodile, and it's not a low bounty because he has 1.965 billion. As I said earlier, I love hype bounties. I think that's really their purpose. I definitely didn't expect Crocodile to get a bounty this high, but that's really exciting that he does. And the same thing goes for Buggy and Mihawk, who both have bounties over 3 billion, with Buggy having a bounty of 3.189 billion and Mihawk having one of 3.59 billion. These 3 bounty reveals were way more hype than the majority of Straw Hat bounty reveals, which on one hand is really exciting because I'm really looking forward to what the Cross Guild do next and what they're gonna be after. But on the other hand, I will say, because I have a very strong Straw Hat bias, I am a little salty that you have Buggy getting a higher bounty than Luffy, who is literally Nika and has this god fruit and just defeated Kaido and Big Mom. And also Crocodile pretty much doubling Zoro, Jinbei, and Sanji's bounties. Like, that's pretty crazy, and it's not even the Straw Hats. Crocodile has the highest bounty bounty out of all known Yonko commanders. Not King, not Marco, not Queen, none of them are even close. Besides that though, the last thing we have to talk about a little more is Mihawk's power and just how strong is he. The Shanks and Mihawk debate has been going on for a very long time, and I'm sure it's just gonna ignite even more after this chapter. Honestly, personally, I've flip-flopped sides many times because logically, I think the argument that Mihawk is the stronger swordsman, meaning that he's the stronger person, makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, Shanks is just a more important character, and the guy is also a beast. So most recently, my take on the Shanks and Mihawk debate is that they're pretty much equal, and I think this chapter proves it. At the very least, Mihawk definitely has Yonko level strength, and the fact that they go out of their way to specifically mention that Mihawk is a better swordsman than Shanks in this chapter, I think is pretty meaningful. But honestly, the thing that's actually most exciting for me here is that Zoro's gonna surpass Mihawk eventually, which means he's probably gonna surpass Shanks as well, which means that his bounty is gonna be crazy. So that's the one thing I'm holding out for, which is that Oda has a couple more bounty increases for the Straw Hats to go, so he's really saving up that hype. With that said though, let's get to the last section of this chapter, which is the Revolutionaries, and we find out the Revolutionary officers, most of them have returned. In fact, pretty much everyone besides Sabo returned. Lindbergh, Karasu, Morley, and even Kuma are all back. They do go on to explain that this happened because Sabo ended up splitting off from the group, and it seems like it was only after that that it was announced that he assassinated King Cobra. Now obviously, despite Dragon not completely trusting Sabo in this chapter, I definitely don't think he killed Cobra. I think what's happening right now is he got mixed up into this situation, and now he's probably with Vivi, and the two of them are likely going to be following Luffy's Viver card, and Vivi, I think, will reunite with the Straw Hats in Elbaf. This is something I've strongly believed in for a while after we found out more stuff about the Reverie, and I really thought about it. Given the situation right now, Vivi definitely can't return to Alabasta, and she's always said that she wants to return to the Straw Hats one day, so there's really one reasonable place to go right now, which is the Straw Hats, her second family, her friends. And given that when we first found out about Elbaf on Little Garden, Vivi was also there, it's just the perfect time for her to come back. For the time being though, we're not gonna find out the answer because Sabo calls them right as the chapter ends. So the other thing I do want to quickly discuss is Kuma and how it seems like he's recovered and fine, which I feel like pretty much confirms that Vegapunk is working with the Revolutionary Army in some way, because he was the person that turned Kuma into a full cyborg, so he must have done something to allow him to be able to recover. But yeah, all in all, that's the chapter. Carrot did not make an appearance in this chapter, so like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I think Carrot fans could be in for a lot of sadness. If you want my full thoughts on Carrot joining and her character arc as a whole, you can check out this video. As far as where the Straw Hats go next, I've seen a lot of people bring up Sphinx Island, and I really love that idea as a nice little chill arc, plus the fact that it would also get Marco involved a little more after he didn't really do much in Wano for a character of his caliber. But given that we did not see him at all on the Sunny in this chapter, I feel like that chance may be dwindling as well. So we might end up on another unknown island to do a short little arc before heading to Elbaf, or Elbaf is just next. As far as this chapter goes though, it was a damn good chapter for me. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the chapter as well, so make sure to comment below. And if you made it this far, you probably had a good time, so please drop a like for the YouTube algorithm. And in my hand, I have a One Piece volume between 80 and 90. If you guess it wrong, you have to like, subscribe, and watch the next video. And the answer is volume 90.